Today we're going to be reviewing this tent that we recently purchased online. Now this one I believe is 10 by 30. This is not a pop-up one, so you do have to assemble it, which we've got all these laid out. So these are actually going to have like numbers and stuff on them. So it's best when you're going through and setting it up that you lay it out by numbers. It does help a lot when you're going through and following the instructions. So we'll go ahead and get to the assembly process. I'll show you what it looks like at each step of the way, how well it looks once it's up as well. One thing I did want to mention during the assembly process is there's going to be a number 1 and there's also going to be a 1 with a circle in it. It's important to differentiate between those two. Otherwise, you're going to mess up when putting together your side rails. So your side rails are going to be a number 1, a 4 in the middle, and then another number 1. So it's important to know that it's number 1, not number 1 with a circle around it. Why they did circles and rather than just doing a different number, I have no idea, but it's something that's important to note. Now, I would recommend that when you're assembling this, that you have either some people to help, or we're actually using a chair there to hold up the center, as otherwise it can bow down a good amount and it's pretty easy for it to bend where you've got these connections. So I definitely wish they would have made this a lot sturdier in regards to that. The same thing is true once you get the top on. So you're going to put the top on once you have all of the bars here before you lift it up. But when you raise it up, you want to make sure you've got enough people to raise it up from each of the poles, because otherwise if you're raising up one end, say this end here, earlier than this, then you'll find it'll bend there or on one of these sides. Typically it'll bend in the middle. So something to keep in mind when you are putting this up. Just make sure you have enough people that you're picking this up all at once, holding it up while you put the poles in, rather than just starting at one end and doing it. These poles are going to be smaller than what I would prefer. Definitely would prefer if they were much bigger around and made of a thicker metal. Now, a couple issues that we ran into, you can see here, it splits out really easily along the seam. Same thing along here. So I definitely would prefer if they'd either use like a thicker plastic or better stitching along these corners, as they do have a tendency to split out. And that's especially because this thing really just needs to have a better way of going on. Like, they don't have anything solid here along the bottom. It's just the plastic. And they really need to have something here along the ridges so that way this does not happen. So this is what it's going to look like from the underside. Now, one issue that I did want to mention, you can kind of see what happened there, is when you're putting it up and if you try and move it or something, the issue is these things buckle. And that's what I was talking about. It would be just really nice if they just made these of a stronger metal. I don't know why they had to make these of the thinnest metal possible, but just like a little bit thicker metal would prevent that from happening. Same thing in regards to the length. So they made these all really short, and so it kind of droops in the middle. So let me kind of show you what I'm talking about here. So you can see it kind of droops in the middle, and that's not because of that broken part. It's just because they run a really long length, and so it doesn't actually point up there. And they really should have done, instead of doing like 4 across, they really should have done 5 across, so that way it has something that holds it up here. You can see how billowy this is here in the middle, because there's just no brace across this middle here. And they really should have done it where there was an extra one like that, because otherwise it kind of droops like that, and it doesn't necessarily look the best. Overall, for the value, it is a good value. In regards to that, these are going to kind of hook down onto there. You can kind of see how those hook onto the bottoms of those. So this will be nice for like an outdoor party, maybe for a holiday or something like that. It also does come with like the stakes that you'll use to put these little bottoms into the ground as well. So overall, pretty decent. Just a couple of things that I wish if they would have done right and would have done better, it would make this a 10 out of 10 versus being like a 6 or a 7 out of 10 in my opinion.